I now invite the Chairman of Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, the Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit, to address us.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all recognize in our presence His Excellency David Granger, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and Mrs. Granger. I almost said, welcome to the President. Honourable Prime Minister of Guyana, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Governments of the Caribbean Community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the students of the various schools represented here, friends all, good evening. Let me first of all, on behalf of the community and on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, extend our profound condolences to the government, people, and family of the late Patrick Manning, our former Prime Minister. I had the good fortune of working with the former Prime Minister over an extended period of time, and I could always rely on him to draw on his wisdom on a number of important national and regional matters. He was no doubt a very committed Caribbean leader, citizen of the Caribbean community, and his memory and the efforts he made over an extended period of time will certainly last in our memories for a very long time. In recognition of his contribution to Dominica and the Caribbean community, and a show of respect, admiration, and a celebration of his life, the government and people of Dominica will recognize 2 days of national mourning on Friday and Saturday of this week to demonstrate our respect and admiration for the fallen soldier, former Prime Minister Patrick Manning. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with a degree of conviction that we are on the right track and with optimism for the future that I assume chairmanship of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. It is also at a time when the Conference of Heads of Government is being infused with new blood. In welcoming the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and the Honourable Alan Chastanet, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, to the conference, I note that in the last 2 years, 6 of our 15 members of this conference are new to the table. I also welcome Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who, while not attending his first meeting of the conference, was elected after our meeting in July. Their presence through the electoral process is an affirmation of our community's commitment to democracy and the rule of law. The conference will also continue to benefit from the experience of Dr. the Honourable Ralph Gonzalez, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and His Excellency Desil Boltese, President of Suriname, both of whom were returned to office in the past year. All the others continue to give unbroken service to the conference, and we value their contribution highly. This mix of experience and fresh perspectives in the leadership of our community could only be beneficial and will serve to rejuvenate our integration movement. I am not sure if it is by pure coincidence or divine intervention, but it so happens that I also take the chair of CARICOM at a time when the world is still in a state of shock at Britain's decision to leave the European Union after 43 years of membership. At a time when the rest of the world is moving towards regional integration in order to carve out an economic space in the global marketplace and to balance the might of the emerging superpowers, Britain has chosen to retreat to insular nationalism. Already the political, economic, and social fallout from this decision to go it alone is causing considerable concern within Britain, Europe, and the rest of the world. This conference gives us a wonderful opportunity to seriously consider the effect that Britain's exit from the European Union will have on CARICOM, and to demonstrate real leadership by showing the way forward. After all, we have had a long and deep relationship with the United Kingdom, and Britain remains one of our most important trading partners, the largest source market for our primary industry, and a vital source of assistance on legal and financial matters. So, in my capacity as chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, I must make clear my position on the exit of the UK from the EU, and to suggest what CARICOM needs to do urgently in response to this seismic eruption in the European Union and the consequent inevitable shift in international relationships. Let me begin by reminding us, especially the CARICOM skeptics, that the circumstances in the EU are completely different to those in CARICOM. There are two main reasons why the United Kingdom would want to leave the European Union at this point. The first is the historical fear of losing their sovereignty. From the British point of view, nearly every nation in Europe has, over the years, tried to conquer and rule Britain. Secondly, EU citizenship brings with it not only free movement, but also automatic access to welfare and other benefits. This created anxieties in Britain, where the average English voter saw membership of the EU as opening the floodgates for countless Europeans and refugees from Syria, Iraq, and wherever there is conflict, to pour into the country through any of the EU ports of entry. This is something which Britain, still hamstrung by austerity measures, could not afford indefinitely. On the other hand, CARICOM is the fulfillment of a long-standing aspiration of our peoples. It is an important staging post on the way to creating what scholars like Dr. Ralph Gonsalves call a unique Caribbean civilization. The peoples of the Caribbean have demonstrated beyond any shadow of a doubt that the human spirit is invincible. During the worst forms of deprivation, they have continued to dream. In the midst of genocide, they dreamt of peace. In the midst of hatred, they dreamt of tolerance and respect. In the midst of slavery, they dreamt of freedom. And in the midst of poverty, they continue to dream of prosperity. This ability to dream and strive for a better life aptly defines the Caribbean. Since the advent of universal adult suffrage after World War II, we have made considerable progress via the Federation, CARIFTA, and CARICOM. We now have representative governments with the mandate to build nations in our own image and strive to realize the people's vision of peace, freedom, tolerance, equal opportunities, prosperity, and more equitable distribution of the wealth we all help to create. Let me remind us that CARICOM is primarily a community. It has been built on the powerful emotions of empathy and caring for each other. At the individual level, that fact is constantly being reinforced wherever and whenever our people interact. You just have to observe how Caribbean people have historically behaved in the diasporas of Cuba, in Panama, in the Americas, and in Europe. At a national level, that care and concern that we have for each other demonstrate our sense of being part of a community. My country, Dominica, experienced this after the passage of Tropical Storm Erica last August. The outpouring of support and concern from the regional community was tremendous, and on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, I express heartfelt thanks to the governments and people of the Caribbean community, CARICOM. This support continues with the government of Guyana willingly accepting the responsibility to co-host this meeting of the conference as we are still in recovery mode. Thank you, President Granger and Secretary General LaRocque, for coming together with Dominica to make such fine arrangements for the 7th meeting of the conference. I actually feel like the President of the Republic. Colleague heads of government, ladies and gentlemen, some of us may be ambivalent and hesitant about a closer relationship with CARICOM, but let us not resolve to blindly imitate what happened in Britain a few days ago. Let us instead work together to strengthen our cooperation and collaboration to create a stronger, more vibrant community. Let us properly analyze and position ourselves to take advantage of the opportunities that will arise from this. It may be that Britain's exit from the EU will lead to renewed cooperation on better terms with the Commonwealth and bring greater benefits to all as we seek a safe and viable space in the global marketplace. Let us therefore focus more closely on what needs to be done to strengthen CARICOM, to make it more economically competitive, and to generate the resources to sustain our togetherness. Colleague heads of government, ladies and gentlemen, these are not normal times. Our economies have been battered, figuratively, by the global financial and economic crisis, and literally by the natural disasters which have been the major contributor to our region's crushing debt burden. Our resilience is being tested as never before, but we have proven time and again that we have it within us as a collective to not only withstand severe challenges, but to seize opportunities to take us out of adversity. We have had to be creative and innovative in order to survive. The most important lesson we have learned throughout our history, and which has been powerfully reinforced by the recent recession, is that no matter how noble and generous our promises are to our people, we cannot deliver unless we generate the resources to pay for them. CARICOM must now put in place the building blocks to create even more opportunities going forward. Then it is up to us to be more action-oriented and use them effectively. As we seek to advance the interests of our community in this gathering over the next 2 years, I recall that in another forum, I identified 7 imperatives for us to be successful. These are: 1, a seamless market space connected by efficient and cost-effective transportation. 2, a vibrant private sector promoting the development of an investor class. 3, attractive investment opportunities. 4, a more productive regionally integrated labor market, including a long-range view of the skills needed, their movement, and how work is done. 5, an efficient regionally integrated capital market. 6, solutions to problems related to energy that powers economic activity. And 7, building resource competence and capabilities that make innovation possible. Among these, I wish to highlight the following. The first priority, and in my opinion, the most important imperative, is a seamless market space connected by efficient and cost-effective transportation. The most powerful case for regional integration is the need for a common market or free trade area with relatively free movement of human and material capital and services, and which offers incentives for and benefits from working together. Primary among these would be lower tariffs, diversification of production according to comparative advantages, and a large enough market to enjoy economies of scale. This is what CARICOM enables small nation-states to do. But none of this is possible without an efficient and effective transport system. Fellow heads of government, this being the case, I cannot understand why we have not completed the essential infrastructure to facilitate movement towards an effective free trade area, a meaningful community, or a single market and economy. Why has it proven so difficult to move people, goods, and services cheaply and efficiently around the Caribbean? Why is it cheaper to travel by air from Dominica to New York than it is to travel from Dominica to Guyana? Why are St. Lucian bananas cheaper in London than in Barbados? Why is it cheaper to phone a relative in London from Grenada than it is to phone a friend in St. Vincent? Why can visitors from England or elsewhere be offered an attractive package of different tourism products that draws on the unique natural beauty of each CARICOM country? Why can't we use maritime transport to bridge the Caribbean Sea? There is no doubt whatsoever that the essential infrastructure to facilitate economic cooperation and growth in CARICOM is incomplete. Similar questions can be asked about the second priority, which is the growth of a vibrant private sector, promoting the development of an investor class. Globalization with the use of modern technology by the new BRICS and Mint superpowers to produce standard goods is making traditional jobs redundant. The only way we can tackle the growing problem of unemployment is to train a larger proportion of our population, especially our better educated and trained newcomers to the job market, how to spot niches in the global economy and create their own employment in the process of meeting the identified needs. Obviously, access to investment opportunities and capital must be in the third priority. So far, St. Kitts and Nevis has led the way globally by being the first country to introduce citizenship by investment programs, CIPs. Now such programs are commonplace around the world, and in some cases have been abused. However, I still believe that with the requisite due diligence of applicants, CIPs can provide the desperately needed capital for investments and business developments in our countries. Let us not ignore the fact that we have made some progress with almost all of these 7 priorities. For example, we have seen movement in the 4th priority, which is the productive regionally integrated labor market, including a long-range view of the skills needed, their movement, and how work is done. For a start, there is in place an agreement that bestows on CARICOM nationals the right to an automatic 6-month stay in another member state. The oversight of this is in the safe hands of the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ. The highly significant rulings of the CCJ in matters of free movement clearly emphasizes the value of this court. I believe that the confidence which we have shown in obtaining our political independence must now be extended to seizing our regional judicial sovereignty, as has been done by Guyana, Barbados, Belize, and Dominica. I want to encourage our other member states to take the necessary steps to accede to the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Colleague heads of government, ladies and gentlemen, there are several other pressing issues that we face in taking CARICOM forward. Among these are the effects of climate change, which threatens our very survival. Another is the severe drought conditions, which have afflicted many of our nations in recent months. Ironically, most of our member states are surrounded by water, while our continental colleagues are blessed with many large rivers. And of course, Dominica has an abundance of water too. Increasingly, water is being viewed as a valuable resource that, if left unmanaged, would be in short supply across the globe. I am convinced that, if properly managed and with adequate investment and use of technology, the supply of fresh water in the region could be another avenue for innovation and creation of a major economic opportunity. Faced with the threat of climate change, we have to take steps to both adapt to that phenomenon and to mitigate its effects. The use of costly fossil fuels has been associated with rising levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. It is therefore in our economic and environmental interests to explore the huge potential that exists in the Caribbean for exploiting renewable sources of energy, such as sun, wind, and geothermal. With appropriate technology and investment, we can therefore maximize the economic potential of these natural resources in an effort to reduce our energy costs, our dependence on fossil fuels, and our carbon footprint. We have begun to drive that process with the recent establishment of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency in Barbados. A common factor running through all, and which needs to be put right and strengthened in CARICOM, is the efficiency with which we make decisions and implement them. Significant time and resources have been spent by our technical officers and the CARICOM Secretariat in carrying forward the mandates from our councils. Some of these issues have occupied our attention for many years without final resolution. The institutions of our community must operate more efficiently to remove these long-standing items off the regional agenda. This will certainly allow for swifter action to be taken on the more immediate issues. I wish to emphasize, however, that it takes two hands to clap. CARICOM is not about imposing policies and programs on member states. It is about empowering member states by democratic means. A major responsibility, therefore, falls at the level of member states to get things moving. For example, we have agreed on a number of measures to advance the CARICOM single market and economy, and our officials have completed all the necessary technical work. However, due to the failure of our member states to give the go-ahead, those critical measures remain unattended. There are several other cases which can be listed as demonstrating that there can be more movement in other areas of the CSME. The completion could enhance our competitiveness and create considerable opportunities for our community. These include the establishment of a labor market information system, a single information and communications technology ICT space, a regional framework of cooperation to combat crime and enhance security, and legislation to help control non-communicable diseases, NCDs. In all of these cases, our officials have completed the roadmaps towards achieving the various objectives. However, despite valiant attempts, we have not yet been able to bring together the ministers responsible for these areas to consider the roadmaps and approve them. We definitely need action by member states to complete this process of change. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I want to urge us, my fellow heads of government, to use whatever powers we have at our disposal to seek to successfully conclude many of the outstanding matters on our agenda, and to work towards the speedy and effective implementation of matters agreed upon. We must all play our part to remove the clearly identified and agreed stumbling blocks to deeper regional integration. I am comforted to note that we have almost read the same speech, all of us who have spoken this evening. And clearly, my work will be much easier over the next 6 months. And in the words of one of our founding fathers, the Honourable Forbes Burnham, made almost 50 years ago, but which could just as well be made today. And I quote, "Either we integrate or we perish, unwept, unhonored," end of quote. These words still ring true today. I look forward, therefore, colleagues, to all of us playing our part in what is now our time to deliver. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, which brings to an end the formal part of this evening's opening ceremony. I request that we all remain seated to allow the heads of government to depart, led by His Excellency President Granger of Guyana and Mrs. Granger, to be followed by the Chairman of Conference, the Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit, and the Secretary General of CARICOM, Ambassador Erwin LaRocque. And as they leave the auditorium, they will do so to the strains of the CARICOM song.
From many distant lands, our forefathers came, some seeking adventure, some bound in chains. Through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing of your courage.